What's good, YouTube? It's your boy P Money. So we have a very interesting story that came out. This came out 2 days ago. That's when it was published. Um, but this woman, who is from Sonora, Mexico, 22 years old, Glenda Galaxolia Garcia, or Gracia, was arrested in January for possession of more than 24 pounds of cocaine hidden in her car last month. So on the 28th of January, Arizona state troopers stopped her in her little Honda sedan on Interstate 8 near milepost 176 near Casa Grande, which is not that far away from here. That's probably about 45. That's a 45-minute drive. So, yeah, very interesting. But as you can see how this is worded, it says woman charged. But why is it that when it's a white identifying individual that's not white, you know what I'm saying? Like, of the purest sense, because we all know that there's different categories of white. But this is obviously a white identifying person, because if it was not a white identifying person, there would be no way that she could get that type of, weight over here across the border, you know what I'm saying? So it was clear as day that there's people that are on Border Patrol helping her to be able to get this through. You know what I'm saying? Because she's a white identifying person. And why do I say this? Well, let's go to the Census Bureau. Now, OMB requires that race data be collected for a minimum of 5 groups: white, black, Native Indian or American Indian, Alaska Native, Asian, and Pacific Islander. Well, she's definitely not a Pacific Islander. She's definitely not an Asian. She's definitely not an Alaska Native. She's definitely not an American Indian. So, and she's definitely not black. Because, like, it's clear as day who's considered black and she's not. So what else would she be considered? She has to be considered white, correct? Correct. You know what I'm saying? So this is a white identifying person getting in trouble. Obviously, with her white privilege, her bond is only set at $100,000, which she probably only has to pay 10% of that. And since she's in that type of game, she can get out of jail. You know what I mean? Like, black people do not get that type of help, you know what I'm saying? Like, they don't have people on the inside, like a Border Patrol and stuff like that, to be able for her to get through, because they're not looking at her hard enough. This is what happens. And these types of things should be talked about way more often than they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, this needs to be out there in the open, that there's a lot of issues right now in Tucson with drugs coming from Mexico. And it's people like this woman and others that are bringing it over here en masse. And it really doesn't get talked about enough in the local media. You know what I'm saying? They'll put this little article together like, oh, well, no, it's no worries, knowing that there's a huge problem with opioids and other things such as fentanyl in this city. You know what I'm saying? But they would rather, the same K-Gold, News 13, would rather talk about a black woman in Memphis who went to jail in 2016. They just, like, that article was much longer than this one, when this is a much more current event. Unfortunately, that black woman decided to kill her 4 kids, which is a heinous act, and she should be under the jail. You know what I'm saying? So I have the same energy. Just because she's a black woman does not mean that she should be going out and killing her kids. You know what I'm saying? That's ruthless. But this type of stuff from white identifying people don't they just get their little slap on the wrist. Oh, your bail set at 100 grand, knowing that she can get out of that. And she can get her lawyered or whatever. She can get lawyered up because they allow this type of stuff. You know what I'm saying? If this was a black person in the same position, holding that type of weight, we'd be talking about them not being able to post bail. There'd be no bail to post. You know what I'm saying? They would not have the representation that this person has because that black person does not have that white privilege, So it's very interesting to see how local news tries to portray these people. They just say woman. No, it's a white woman. And we know this because according to the Census Bureau, most Mexicans that come here are white identifying, They could be as dark as I am and still be considered white on the Census Bureau, So they need to start holding themselves more accountable, K-Gold 13, you know what I'm saying? And calling this what it is, because this is not a woman. This is a white identifying woman. And we don't have to act like that's not what it is, because that's what it is, man. And she got that white privilege, you know what I'm saying? So that 100 grand to set her bond, that's nothing. That's chump change. She can charge that to the gang and her white privilege. But I don't really have too much else on this one. Just, I felt this was an interesting story to speak about. Also, I'll put in the description box that story that this particular news feed decided to put yesterday, you know what I'm saying, on that black woman who, by the way, has been in jail since 2016 when she actually committed those murders of her kids, you know what I'm saying? So I really don't understand. Well, I know why they did this, they did that story, because they've been taking a whole bunch of L's, you know what I'm saying? There's so much things going on right now in their community that they can't stop, you know what I'm saying? Because they don't want to hold anyone accountable, so it's not going to stop, you know what I'm saying? The only way is if it gets held accountable en masse. Now, this person ended up getting caught, but how many more people were able to get across the border that they were trying to get, like, hundreds of pounds? We know that it's not just her. We know that. Come on now. So they get that 26.5 pounds. Maybe they set this lady up. Who knows? I don't know. So just to make it look like, oh, see, the system works. But we know the system is flawed, especially when it comes to drugs coming over from Mexico. We know this. But I don't have too much else on this one. This is your boy Pete Money. Tell me what you guys think, and I'm off this.